All right, folks, so today I want to talk about something that I'm asked about on a pretty regular basis. And the question isn't always formatted the same, but people are after kind of the same thing. And they're asking about how far can you kill an animal, or what is your maximum effective range? And so I wanted to just take a few minutes today to address this. All right, so before we start talking about our maximum effective range and our ability to make those longer shots, I want to clear up something that people wonder about, and that's basically the killing power of an arrow at longer ranges. There seems to be an idea that the effectiveness of an arrow seems to decrease as the distance increases, and that if you meet a couple of criteria isn't really the case. And what I mean by criteria is first of all, a well-made arrow, a razor-sharp broadhead, and an arrow of satisfactory weight, grain weight, total weight. And what I would suggest is a minimum, a bare minimum, if you're shooting traditional gear, of 10 grains per pound of bow weight. And really that would be a good recommendation for any bow and arrow setup, even if you're shooting a compound. This bow is 60 pounds at 28 inches. This arrow is right around 640 grains, and it's tuned very well. And so if I were able to, and I was confident that the animal was still gonna be standing there, I have complete confidence that this bow and arrow setup could kill an elk as far as I could hit it, even out to 100 yards if I could make that shot and I was confident the animal was gonna be there. And a good example of that is a shot that Howard Hill made on a bull elk at some ridiculous distance, like 180 yards. He killed a bull elk with a longbow at 180 yards, I think it was. I could be mistaken about that. But the point is that if you can hit the animal with a well-made arrow, sharp broadhead, all that stuff, you can kill it. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's talk about our ability to make that shot. For me, what it comes down to when I'm in the woods is I don't limit myself to any particular yardage. I ask myself, am I confident in my ability to make that shot? And if I am, I don't care what the distance is. And I've never taken a shot this far at an animal, but if I were in the woods and there was an animal out there at 45 yards and I knew that I could make that shot, why would I not take it? Now, like I said, I've never taken and I've never found that situation where I was confident in that, but if I did, I would take it. The farthest I've ever shot at a big game animal was back in 2015. I killed a bull elk at 35 yards. Now, at the time, I didn't know how far that distance was, but I knew that I could make that shot. There was no question in my mind that I could make that shot. And so I drew back, I got my sight picture to where it looked good, and I released that arrow. Now, I'd practice those shots. I shoot all the time at, distances farther than that. And so the criteria that I use is, am I hoping that I can make that shot, or do I know that I can make that shot? And if I know it, I'm gonna take it. Now, with that said, animals move. And so even though, like, I can stand here in my backyard and put my deer target up here, and I can drop arrows into the kill zone of that deer target at 35 yards all day long, I have never found a situation where I would be comfortable shooting at a deer, a live deer at 35 yards, simply because whitetails in particular are incredibly fast, and a lot can happen between the time you drop that string and the time that arrow gets to that animal. Now, you take elk on the other hand. Elk are fast, but they are nothing compared to whitetails. If I had a bull elk standing out at 35 yards, broadside, standing still. I feel good about that shot. Not so with a whitetail. Just last year, I had the biggest buck of my life bedded at 35 yards, and I didn't take the shot because I was hoping I could get a little bit closer, honestly, but I just wasn't feeling that shot at that time. Now, if I was put in that situation again, maybe I would feel like I could make that shot, but at that time, I just wanted to get a little bit closer. If I could cut 5 yards off of it, maybe I would have felt better about that shot. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, I've had elk at, I mean, just about point blank. I had one of the biggest bulls I've ever been close to at 8 yards. And this was probably 7 or 8 years ago. And it just was not right. There was some brush in between us. I maybe could have snaked an arrow through there, but he was well within range, but I just had to let him walk away because I wasn't confident that I could get an arrow in through that brush without hitting something and deflecting and potentially wounding that bull. And so probably the biggest bull of my life I had to let walk away at 8 yards because I was not confident. I would have been hoping that I could have got that arrow through there. So with all this said, I'm not trying to say that I make every single shot that I take. I've shown misses on videos. I think I showed one this year. And so don't misinterpret what I'm saying, that because you know that you can make the shot, you're going to make the shot every single time. When you're in the woods, there's all sorts of things that can happen. Just last year, I was taking a steep downhill shot and my bottom limb came in contact with my pants leg. Don't get that confused with knowing that you can make the shot. I knew, when I saw that deer down there, I knew that I was capable of making that shot in that situation. But like I said, there's just random occurrences that come up. Maybe it's an errant wind. Maybe it's a piece of brush that you don't see that your arrow hits. Maybe you smack your leg with your bottom limb. These things can cause you to miss, but there's a big difference between those random little things that happen that are just inherent in the unpredictable nature of hunting and taking a shot that you're hoping, like, man, I hope I hit that animal, or I hope I hit that animal in the right place. There's a big difference between those two things, so don't confuse those two things. I hit my leg. I put out a video probably 2 years ago that is aimed at developing confidence, and it gives you a whole bunch of different little tips and tricks that you can use to let yourself know that you can develop a high level of accuracy with a traditional gear. Maybe you need to try a clicker out. Maybe you need to use a couple of the other techniques that I use in that video. Because you need to know, to develop that confidence, you need to know that you're capable of it. Once you know that, you're not wondering if you're lacking something that other archers have that can, hit those tennis balls at 20 yards every time. You can do it. You just need to know that you can do it. And I'm not prescribing this process to anyone else. I'm just telling you how I evaluate a shot or a potential shot when it comes down to me. But when I'm in the woods and I'm trying to figure out, am I going to shoot or am I not going to shoot? That's what it comes down to, is am I confident in my ability to do it, or am I hoping that I can do it?